The most profound experts are also the most misunderstood, not because their work isn't valuable, but because it's so ahead of the curve that most people can't instantly grasp it. So if you've ever struggled to explain what you do, if your clients seem to get it, but the rest of the world doesn't, you're not alone. And maybe you've told yourself that eventually people would get it, only to find out that you're still shrinking yourself to be more digestible. So you share bits and pieces of what you do, never fully knowing how to communicate the gravity of your work. But here's the hard truth. If people don't instantly understand your genius, they won't buy it, no matter how life-changing it is. So today, I'm taking you into the Innovators Lab to see exactly how to fix this and to understand why even the smartest experts struggle to articulate their value, and the exact framework that turns complexity into clarity so that high-intent buyers instantly recognize your value, and how to stop wondering if people will get it ever again. So let's get real. Now, hey, and welcome back to the Business Real Talk. I am so excited for today's episode. You guys know I geek out over talking about how to truly articulate our genius. And this episode is going so deep into these concepts that I know have been mind-blowing for so many of the people that I've been speaking to about this recently. Now, in last week's episode, we talked all about business models. We went into why it's so important to understand how to create a business model that's built for you. So what better next step to take than to start talking about how to actually build the way that we communicate, the way we articulate what we do so that others can understand it as well. So let's start with why the heck is this so freaking hard? Now, I want you to think for a minute. I want you to imagine that you walk into a massive, beautiful museum. Think about the Louvre, right? But instead of being the Louvre, this is your museum. And it's filled with exhibits showcasing the depth of your expertise, the years of experience, the breakthroughs, the intricate connections that you've made over time. But here's the problem. Your visitors, the very people who would benefit the most from your work, are walking in, they're glancing around, and they leave. Not because that what inside of that museum isn't valuable, but because the doors are locked, the descriptions are missing, and the exhibits, they're too complex to grasp at a glance. So what do? You shrink your genius to try and fit on a postcard. You give people these bite-sized explanations, hoping that they'll piece it together all on their own. And you leave out the most transformative parts because you're not sure how to explain to them in a way that actually makes sense instantly. But the answer isn't to shrink your genius. It's to redesign the exhibit so that the right people walk in, they immediately think, oh my gosh, I get it. I need this. This is what I've been looking for. And when you get this right, your audience instantly recognizes your value without needing years of context. You stop relying on referrals to translate your genius for you. You position yourself as an innovator rather than a commodity. And you attract high intent buyers who are already convinced before they ever get on a sales conversation with you. And most importantly, you get to finally feel seen, understood, recognized, and in control of how your expertise is perceived. Now, here's the reality. This is where most experts get this wrong. They think to themselves that if I just keep sharing my results, people will get it. So they over-explain. They think that more details will create more clarity. They lean on testimonials, hoping that others will articulate it for them. They start creating more opportunities to try and prove to people what they're capable of. But proof alone isn't enough to bridge the gap. I recently had someone share with me, some days I try to explain and other days I just let my client testimonials do it. I still feel like I have to embrace just being misunderstood. So if you've ever felt like your clients understand, they understand it better than maybe you can explain it, this is why. You're operating from what I call proximity genius. You're too close to your own brilliance to actually be able to see it clearly. It's kind of like trying to describe a color that you've seen your whole entire life, but you're sharing it with someone who's never seen it before. You assume that it's obvious until you realize that there's no words that actually fully capture it. And the second big mistake people make is they try to niche down even further, trying to make their expertise clear. This is the advice that I see every coach and guru giving out there. And sure, niching can work for some, but for true experts and innovators, it can feel more like a jail cell because you feel limited by what you can share and who you can share it with. You strip away all the very facets that make your work groundbreaking. And instead of standing out, your work starts to look like everything else in the market because the solution isn't to cut away parts of your expertise. It's to structure it in a way that makes sense instantly. Now, the real problem is that right now, you're handing people random puzzle pieces. You're giving them more details, more breakdowns, more explanations, hoping that they'll piece it together. But without the full picture up front, they're going to get overwhelmed. They're going to walk away. Now, on the flip side, if you shrink down too much, you end up with a 4-piece children's puzzle so simplified that it loses its impact. Neither approach works because people don't just need pieces. They need to see the full picture. That's why Proximity Genius keeps experts stuck. You're so close to your work that you forget that others can't see the full image like you can inside of your brain. And that's exactly why when my clients come to me, they understand that they spent decades trying to figure out what we're able to do in just 30 to 45 days. Because until you fix this, people won't be able to easily buy, not because your work isn't valuable, but because they can't grasp the gravity of what you do fast enough. So here's the shift that we need to be able to make. We need to stop over-explaining because this only makes people's eyes glaze over. The more you explain, the harder it feels for them to understand. And people don't buy things when they have to struggle to try and get it. And we don't want to water it down because this just strips away what actually makes your work so innovative, making it sound like everything else. And when people can't tell the difference, they go with the cheapest, most familiar option. And don't get me started on niching down. This is only forcing you into a smaller box, one that cuts away your most valuable work. So the real problem isn't what you're saying, it's how you're seeing yourself. You don't have just a messaging problem, you have a proximity genius problem. And it's exactly why we focus on what we call innovative gap methodology, because it pulls out not only what you can't see for yourself, but does so in a way that communicates and articulates and positions this in a way where your high intent buyers immediately recognize the value of your work. So there's no more shrinking, no more over explaining, no more wondering if people get it. It's time to make your genius impossible to ignore. So how do we do this? How the heck do we solve this problem without shrinking back and taking back your genius? The key is to knowing how to articulate your expertise without diluting it. And we do this by separating your work into 2 distinct parts. Number 1, your proprietary and innovative methodology. Now, this is the big picture. It's the overarching framework that connects all of your knowledge, your insights, your beliefs, and unique ways of solving the problem. So let's start with your proprietary and innovative method. It's not tied to any single offer, which means it's going to grow with you. Think of it like a unified theory, one that explains the why and the how behind your entire body of work. This is what positions you as an innovator. It shows your unique way of thinking, not just the steps of your process. It creates instant clarity by showing people how everything fits together. And it makes your expertise scalable because it's not locked into any offer, service, or client journey. So where most people get this wrong is they confuse offer frameworks with methodology. I hear it all the time. Nas, I already have a method, but I want to be honest with you. 98% of people I talk to have zero idea of the difference between an offer framework and a methodology. So your offer framework is where execution happens. See, it's the step-by-step process where you take people through to deliver those results. So think of it like a GPS route, right? It maps the exact way that someone's going to get from point A to point B. Every offer has a framework, but your methodology exists above this. So your methodology is the unifying concept that gives the structure to your entire business. Think of it as the housing, the infrastructure of what you do. Now, your offer framework is simply the specific way that you apply your methodology. So you can have one method, say the Easy S method, and you can apply pieces of that method into different offers. And here's why this matters. Most experts build this offer first business. They create an amazing offer, a killer framework, and they try to reverse engineer this methodology from it. But that's completely backwards, right? A true methodology transcends any single offer. It allows you to create multiple revenue streams that all tie back to your expertise, avoid getting trapped in a single offer that no longer fits you or your long-term goals, and it builds brand authority so that people see your work as a category of its own, not just another service or program. And it gives you a single selling pathway that sells your methodology rather than multiple funnels that lead to every new offer you create. Now, most people introduce their expertise at the offer level. They explain what they do through the lens of their current programs, their course, or their service. But this is only keeping you stuck because every time you want to evolve, you have to re-explain your value from scratch. And your work starts to feel fragmented, forcing you to constantly having to sell individual offers instead of this big idea, your true belief, your innovative approach. And your audience, they start to see you as someone who sells X instead of the creator of the powerful and revolutionary and transformative method that you have. This is why you need to flip the order. You need to lead with your methodology, make it clear, make it simple and impossible to misunderstand. Then, once they've bought into your methodology, and only once they've bought into your methodology, then you position your offer frameworks as the vehicle that allow you to drive and deliver those specific results. When you do this, something shifts. People don't just see you as the person who sells Reiki. They don't see you as another messaging strategist. They see you as the authority behind an entire approach and method. You begin the revolution in your industry where people come to you. And it's how you go from being one of many in your niche to the only person who does what you do. And that's when high intent buyers start to come to you already sold. So I want you to think about it this way. Where most business advice tells you to start with your offer, just build a great offer, get people results, and then create a system around it, niche down harder, get super specific on your ideal client, or showcase your testimonial so people understand your value. Now, while all of those things matter, they don't solve the root problem. Because if people don't instantly understand how your work fits into the bigger idea, they'll always see you as just another option, not the only choice. And you'll spend all of your time trying to figure out a way to explain what you do in a way that people actually get, while also allowing them to see the massive value of what you do. So instead of trying to just focus on an offer framework, we want to extract the core methodology that makes your work irreplaceable, unignorable, and incomparable. It's what makes your expertise obvious. No more struggling to try and explain what you do. It future-proofs your business because your methodology stays the same even as your offers evolve, even as you evolve, and it increases your authority. Because guess what? People are no longer thinking of you as one of many options. They're coming to you because you are the only option. They see your approach and your methodology as the only solution, allowing you to take center stage to create the revolution you've always wanted. And it allows you to finally make your genius instantly clear without watering it down. It allows you to stop explaining your value over and over again, trying to get people to accept it because they will now understand it immediately. And it'll allow you to build a business that scales and evolves without having to start from scratch every time you create something new. And most importantly, it ensures that your work isn't just understood, but it's recognized as the only way for those right people. Because when you can articulate your methodology with clarity, confidence, and conviction, you stop being one of many. You become the one and incomparable and unignorable choice. Now, it's only when you have that first step of the process that then we focus on the facets of your work. Now, these are the granular and buyer-driven pathways that help your audience connect your expertise to their specific needs. So think of it this way. Each facet addresses a specific part of your method. It's going to allow you to tailor your message to different buyer types and their distinct desires. It allows you to create this clarity and cohesion because everything is now fitting under one unified structure. And it creates flexibility and evolution because your expertise can grow without losing its identity. And you've got stronger messaging and positioning because your audience will instantly see how your work is different from anything else on the market. Think of it like zooming in to zoom out. So for example, if I'm doing an episode about using your podcast as a conversion tool, I'm zooming in on a specific facet of my work, the podcast strategy. And I'm diving into that piece, addressing how it solves a very specific problem. But here's the magic. Even after diving into that specific facet, I zoom out and show how it plays a role in my bigger methodology. I connected back to the big methodology, demonstrating how the podcast strategy fits into the Easy Yes method, creating a process that allows your leads to sell themselves. This allows me to meet the immediate need of my audience, learning how to create podcasts for conversions, while also seeing how that piece connects to the broader vision. Now they understand that it's not just about the podcast itself, but how that strategy supports the bigger system, that methodology that drives their business forward. See, this method does two key things. It again creates congruency, showing how each part of your process works together seamlessly, and it gives your audience a linear pathway, one that helps them understand how your methodology and your system works holistically, making it easier for them to say yes. This is the key to creating messaging that speaks directly to your audience's needs while showing them that your work is a part of a bigger cohesive system. And when you can structure your messaging this way and your audience gets it, they see the full picture. They understand how everything fits, and they know that you're the expert they've been looking for. It's when we combine these two pieces that the truly innovative and profound experts are finally able to bring their method to market. Just like my client Shasta, who said she was blown away by how she had tried to do something for over 18 years, we were able to do in just 30 days. Now, I've watched countless experts spend far too long trying to articulate their expertise in a way where people just get it. And I felt it myself, right? I spent nearly a decade trying to fit in, trying to be more palatable, trying to figure out why people couldn't just understand my work without actually working with me. It's why I spent thousands of hours building, testing, and applying my innovative gap methodology, because I knew there had to be a better way. And when it didn't exist, I created it. So if you've ever struggled to explain what makes your work different, I want you to know it's not your fault. The more advanced your expertise, the harder it is to articulate. But the answer isn't in working harder to try and prove your value through endless testimonials. It's creating a structured methodology that translates your genius into something people immediately understand and want. And this is the power behind the Easy Yes method. And it's why it comes down to three key pieces. Number one, knowing how to win the market, how we create your innovative gap methodology so that you truly create a market of one. And we do this by using our science-backed approach, by identifying the industry gaps and exactly how your work can solve for that gap in the market, creating a true market of one where you become the only and undeniable solution to their problems. This is where you're able to create limitless demand, have clients running to you, charge 5 to 10 times more, and clients happily pay. It's also the key that unlocks all other doors, because it's once we have our innovative gap methodology that we're able to apply this inside of our bingeable decision systems. This is how we get our leads to sell themselves, by creating a system that works with how people naturally make decisions and mirrors that process in a bingeable mini-series. Think of it how Netflix gets you to sit down and binge watch an entire series without taking any breaks and becoming a diehard fan. This is what we're doing inside of our bingeable decision process. We're creating systems that allow your clients to binge their way to an easy yes. So you have clients pre-sold and ready to work with you, chomping at the bit to pay you before they even get on a sales call. And the third and final piece is actually being able to deliver on the results you've promised. Now, we'd be remiss to say that you could have amazing marketing and incredible sales, but not have the delivery systems that allow you to drive results for your clients at scale. This is why we've created what we call our Happy Client Machine, which teaches our clients how to create the systems and strategies in your offers themselves, so they're not only driving incredible results, but they're becoming less reliant on you. So you have clients who are singing your praises to anyone they meet, while also being able to actually enjoy your life. Now, one of the biggest questions I get from people is, how do I know if I'm ready? Now, this is exactly what the growth optimization call is meant for. I'm not here to try and pressure you into something that you're not ready for. And the reality is, I'm actually not even going to allow you to make a decision on the call itself. Instead, we use this call as a pathway for us to understand your business, your vision for how you'd like to grow it, and whether or not the Easy Yes method can work for you. If we believe it's a fit, we'll share with you the next steps of how we can apply this together within your business. So if you're ready to book your growth optimization call, head on over to easyesleads.com/call to book yours today. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more about how the Netflix effect and the Easy Yes method work, I want to invite you to check out our free bingeable mini-series where we share this exact 3-step process of how we get high intent ready buyers to sell themselves using the Netflix effect. So you can head on over to thenetflixeffect.com to check out this mini series. But as always, we love and appreciate it if you could take just 1 minute out of your busy day to go rate, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. But until next time, here's to keeping it real.